Hi, I'm Maddie, and my presentation is going to be on unrequited love and attraction. So, the definition of unrequited love is passionate love felt by one person towards another person who does not desire romantic involvement with the would be lover. That is from the Brutzlovsky et al. Study. So, conceptualization of unrequited love. The term unrequited love and why unrequited love occurs can be acknowledged from three different sources. First, the equity theory explains how unrequited love comes about in the formation of relationships. This theory states that an individual tends to initially fall in love with someone that's most desirable to them, but that person may not reciprocate this romantic interest if they view that other person as less alluring. This is called falling upward, which refers to generally the act of falling in love with someone more attractive than oneself. The second source of unrequited love is platonic friendships. Strong feelings of closeness and intimacy often arise between friends who spend a lot of time together. Thus, one person might begin to form romantic feelings for a friend while the other party's feelings stay stagnant. And the final typical source of unrequited love is in the early stages of romantic relationships. After a few interactions of getting to know each other better, one person's feelings may flourish while the other person's feelings might diminish. This scenario of unrequited love has the greatest impact on the emotions of both would-be lovers and rejectors. So this is really threatening to the would-be lover's self-esteem and very distressing for the rejector to explain why they're losing interest without hurting the other. Oftentimes they have an inexplicable lack of desire and feel really guilty for these feelings. So, some key takeaways. First is the conspiracy of silence. This is when the agony of both parties is prolonged by this conspiracy of silence, in which the rejector doesn't want to tell the would be lover that their feelings aren't reciprocated, and the would be lover doesn't want to hear it. So, the rejector doesn't want to hurt the would be lover, and so he or she often softens this message or silently rejects the other person, and this might motivate the would-be lover to put more effort in or to avoid the pain by not perceiving this true rejection from the rejector. And in turn, this frustrates and annoys the would-be lover more than if they were blunt in the first place. There's differing emotional outcomes for the would-be lover and the rejector. Self-esteem is the main concern for the would-be lover. Rejection is often associated with the message of inferiority, especially since people tend to fall in love with others who are more desirable than themselves. This is more difficult if the rejection comes later into relationships and if the would-be lover feels that the rejector knows them really well. So some of the methods of regaining self-esteem for would-be lovers are discussing one's positive traits or attractiveness, devaluating the rejector, and also demeaning the rival lover who is now with the rejector. Ironically, the rejectors might experience a temporary self-esteem boost, but this is short-lived. And on the other hand, guilt is the main concern for the rejector. This guilt may come from empathy for the would-be lover or from anxiety over the loss of attachment. Likewise, more guilt is often felt if the rejector has a strong interpersonal bond with the other. And the rejector often employs a number of justification strategies, such as demeaning the meaning of the attachment with the would-be lover, the conspiracy of silence, reaffirming the notion of being true to oneself, or saying that one is unable to control their emotions, or more. So, unlike the would-be lover scenario, there's not much media showing rejectors and how they act and feel. So, this scriptlessness leads to uncertainty, which causes greater frustration and guilt in the rejectors. So, after some time has passed since the unrequited love experience, there are three things that are very evident. And so, the first is the irony of retrospect. The would-be lover had a more humiliating experience, but remembers it generally more pleasantly in a bittersweet or warm way. This person also might come to appreciate the experience because of something they learned. But on the other hand, the event might be um, more pleasant and flattering to the rejecter in the beginning, but he or she remembers it negatively later on. So the rejecter often wishes it never happened in the first place. The two parties tend to interpret the episode differently after time has passed as well. So the would-be lovers say that they were led on and that they got really confusing and vague signals or messages from the rejecter, which oftentimes this explanation allows them to reaffirm the optimism that they felt during the relationship and explain how they acted the way they did in order to protect their self-esteem. On the other hand, the rejectors say they didn't lead admirers on and say that they clearly communicated their disinterest, which often leads to decreased guilt for them. And so rejectors rationalize that they didn't induce pain by contesting their blamelessness. Finally, both parties state that they acted in ways that were out of character. And overall, unrequited love causes people to behave in strange, unexpected ways. This is what the article says. And people note the experience made them confused and that it taught them to change or understand more and make possibly different decisions in future relationships. So future directions for research, there are definitely some more opportunities for the unrequited love research. The data used in this article consisted of only young, unmarried, white, American, heterosexual, middle-class adults. So therefore, research about unrequited love in differing demographics would be super helpful, such as non-Western cultures, differing ethnicities, homosexual populations. That kind of research is needed. And so the study also did not examine how unrequited love differs among gender and personality. So that needs further research as well. And Bratslavicki and his colleagues note that unrequited love may relate to ORI and stalking, so research on that connection would be super useful as well. So some discussion class questions I want to ask in or talk about in class. The first one is the article repeatedly emphasizes the greater negative impact of unrequited love on the rejecter due to the no-win situation. Do you agree? And then my second question is that, so today, common in the era of technology we're in is the concept of ghosting someone or getting ghosted, in which one cuts off all communication without explanation with a would-be lover at the early stages of a relationship. So I'm curious, how might this change the impact on the would-be lover's self-esteem and the rejecter's guilt?